So there's obviously there are other companies coming into the market. Do you see those as being of any threat? So Phonic-wise is just coming into the sector. They've just won. I think they've won 20 schools over the last within a half a year or so. I know in percentage wise it's not massive, but it shows that they've got a product which schools like.
Yeah. So I mean, we've always had about one new entrant a year-ish. It's not quite that average, but something around that. And I think at the moment, because of all the change and all the investment going in and the focus, you all see more come in. And to some degrees, because there's higher churn, a rising tide lifts all ships. Whereas 5 years ago, if you tried to enter, you might have had equally as good a product and service, but you might have got no schools. Not because you weren't as good, it's just the conditions weren't right. So I think people still underestimate the cost of tailoring to the market and of customer acquisition in the UK, because every school is relatively autonomous. You have to go school to school or map to map. You don't get large scale procurements. So that's different to like the US and Australia, where you get this big chunky recruit. And if you miss that, you get nothing. You just have to build, and you have to invest millions of pounds to maybe get 5 schools and then 10, 20 and so on. So it's quite slow, and reputation is not built overnight. So, I remember how long it took us to get from 20 schools to 1,000 schools. Long time, really long time, but actually 1,000 to 2,000, not so long. So you do have this kind of word of mouth reputation inflection point, which I still think is about 1,000 schools. It only started clicking really for us about that. And then you become a bit, then it's got its own momentum and you're all set. So so that was, I think you'll see people come in, invest a bit and then leave. You'll see people come in, invest, but then lose their appetite and stop investing. So they just stick, and you'll see some people just coast. And you'll see consolidation. So the coasters and the shrinkers and even some of the growers will be, it makes sense to put them together. There might be synergies there. So what that means is the market in 5 years will be different names, certainly. Maybe the technology is the same, but they're different names.
That'd be interesting to see. So, do you see RM, and because at the moment RM seem to have, they gained quite a big market share, well, a good chunk of market anyway, but they seem to have stayed. And do you think that's one of those results where they've sort of gone, actually, we think it's hard to now get more growth, in which case then what we'll do is we're, maximize on what we have at the moment? Or do you think, in a sense of, revenue, or do you think they will start again and grow again?
Well, I mean, it's their choice, but I think they were super early to cloud, really pioneering, and they built a really early cloud-based system that worked. I mean, no mean feat. And schools liked it, and local authorities especially liked it. I think that was built quite a long time ago. So they've got they've been, their customers are happy enough. They don't leave en masse. They're seeing a bit of a trickle. But they have tight relationships with support teams and so on. So it hasn't become a flood. They've got a choice, which is do I rebuild that system to modernize it, which costs millions of pounds? Do I maintain it for perhaps for the cash flow it provides, and make sure that my customers are happy enough and make sure I'm pricing it correctly and so on? Or do I sell it? And I'm imagining they're going to be looking at all three right now. But it also depends on, now you've got COVID, and so a lot of their other business units are at risk, and so they might be using the money from the MI bit to fund this other bit. Maybe there's different pressures on the business now, so they'll be looking to sell it. I don't know. It's going to be. I imagine they're what they were thinking maybe 4 months ago is maybe not the same as now. That's true for all of us.
Yeah, very true. One of the other things that's obviously I think is really, really important is obviously the support teams, and you've been building. You've actively, as a business, been building those relationships with the support teams. They are. There's amazing things about them, because they do sort of support the schools in the local perspective, and I think that's good for a company. So Sims, meant we had to go to 130 customers rather than 22,000, as it were, at the particular time. There's also an element where obviously they have some influence, but they don't try and decide the buying. They don't choose which system people buy anymore. Not really, not in essence. So you might find that a few of them will go out to tender, obviously when they feel they have to, regarding Sims 8 or whatever happens. Where do you see that market going in the long term?
Well, they, like schools, have to transform their business to support a cloud-based system, whether that's us, Sims 8, whatever a new buyer might replace Sims 8 with. It's going to be change. So they're all kind of getting ready for that at the moment. It's a scary time because there's a lot to change. Any kind of time you bring change, it's like a bit destabilizing for you and your customers, but it's also a massive opportunity. So you've got this kind of block of 18,000 sim schools that will have to move to the cloud over the next X years. And I'd say because of the Sims acquisition, X is shorter than whatever it was people thought before. And they've got a massively important role to help them do that. And that's the opportunity. You've got to retrain 15,000 schools. All I know is Arbor cannot retrain 15,000 schools. So we need help. So we've been trying to invest deliberately and purposefully in those relationships, because the support partners can provide what we can't. Like, we are a tech company. We have a services and a good services arm, but like, we do it in a more automated, scalable way because we can't be based everywhere. We can't have boots on the ground everywhere all the time. We don't know the local context of the schools, and that's what the support partners can help us with, like really bring the best of what we have and tailor it to the context of that school and do it successfully. So I think the business model changes from, like, you know, patching servers and fixing bugs and those kind of upgrade issues to like helping Arbor, you know, embed us as a platform, retrain all the schools. We're building new features at a greater pace. So when those come out, like, again, there's more training opportunities, integration opportunities, remote data analysis capabilities, because you can access the data in the system from multiple systems at scale, and do benchmarking and, you know, show your value adds as a local authority, perhaps. And yeah, there's just different suite of services you can offer. And those who get good at that will do really well, I think, over the next couple of years.
I agree. I think there's an opportunity for them to actually deliver more high value sort of services, for sure. You know, I think there were, you know, and I'll admit it, I think, you know, obviously, you know, Sim 7 is 15 years old, so there's a lot of sort of showing how to push the right button to get the right stuff out. But I think ultimately in the long term, I think there's an opportunity to show what actually you can get out of the data, you know, and understand what the system can do for the school, rather than going in there and just helping out a user to actually use the system.
I think that's absolutely right, and it is we're developing lots of tools to help partners do that, like the usage stats and to pinpointing who's not using the system or areas that they've paid for that they perhaps haven't adopted fully. And so giving, like, as part of being a really good platform, we have to transform the ecosystem and how they work, and we really want to help give them the tools for free so they can identify that and work with their schools at scale better. So I'm really mindful of how scary it is and how much of an upheaval it is, and we're trying to do as much as we can to make that as smooth as possible, and we're investing a lot in that. So I'm kind of excited to see where the potential is, and we've signed, you know, I think we've got most of the Sim support units are now signed, accredited to Arbor at least, and it's working out how we can move that forward, frankly, and it's been quite a new thing, but it's the second wave of switching that's going to come. First it was MATs, then it's going to be local support units,
I agree,
and supporting them, and that's going to be the second kind of big wave that comes in the next. It's already started, frankly.
Yeah, I agree. I fully agree. Well, James, so the one big question is what you're going to do after you've changed the MIS market. It's much more competitive. so you're now there, you know, alongside maybe Sims, or maybe even higher than Sims, depending whereabouts you get to. What do you think is the next thing that needs to happen and change in the education market? You know, there's lots of questions and lots of conversation about, you know, that schools aren't using enough of their technology. So as an example, School Zone put a report out where only 84% of teachers, 84% of teachers were using email as a way of distributing content and resources and so on. You know, where do you? So maybe I'll just direct you down a path. I didn't mean to. But where do you see? Where do you see? You know, where do you see the next innovation? Where do you see the next challenge?
Well, one challenge that we have spoken about, but is a challenge for a tech company. You forget it's like software as a service. It's like, how do you deliver change management at scale? That's going to be the big challenge that's coming now. You think it's not part of the MIS world, it absolutely is. You can have the best MIS in the world if you don't train properly, and that training does not stop after like the first 8 weeks, 21 weeks. It goes on and on and on. If you do not adopt properly, you'll have wasted your money. So how do software companies get excellent at service? And I think it's specifically important with schools. So that's going to be innovation. You can automate bits of it, some systems that can help, but fundamentally it's a people and process and technology combined kind of issue. So that's one that's really interesting. It doesn't get, how do you migrate 15,000 schools? Interesting essay question. So that's one thing. Get great. It's great. Like the whole of EdTech needs to get better at training and adoption at scale. And that is actually on us, not on teachers. It's on us. Like if it hasn't worked, yeah, you can like, oh, people didn't engage, and like maybe your training wasn't engaging enough. So I think ultimately you've got to look in the mirror first before you throw any rocks. So that's one. Probably working as what does a platform look like? No one's kind of thought of that. Like, we talked about some of the interesting things you can start to do with data, collaboration with governments. That'll be super interesting. Making EdTech easier to trial and launch, like as an EdTech app. That's not been properly tried before. There are a few people trying it. Internationalization, standardization, international benchmarking of students. Like, how do you leverage the power of all that data and bring it to bear and adapt? Like, you have accounting systems that work in multiple countries. Why can't MIS systems work in multiple countries? And what leads that? Is it the system being adopted by the country that standardizes it, or is it the standards becoming more standardized? And I think actually you probably see it, systems will help standardize to a degree. And I think you've got multiple, you can have different markets. Like you have international schools, you have FE, HE. How far do you go in that? And then you've got new verticals. We had how do prisons start to work and operate more effectively? Because analogies are bad in this one, but it's the same kind of cross-functional matrix of people. So you have a prisoner, you have their family and dependents and carers, you have wardens, you have staff, you have prisons becoming more autonomous, and they're fundamentally rehabilitation and education institutions. You would argue at the core, and you're tracking things and they're becoming more accountable. So there are other public sectors that you could expand the concept into.